welcome everybody. I'm Jaime Lewis. I'm a food writer here on the Central Coast, and I have a podcast that's called Consumed. And most of the women who are on this panel today have been right here in my house and have talked to me. And I'm so excited that we have the ability to Zoom and to, all connect safely here, even in the midst of a pandemic. So I wanted to introduce to you these incredible people. I'll start with Maggie Cameron, is the owner and partner at the Hatch Rotisserie and Bar in Paso, Robles. If you haven't had their rotisserie chicken, you have not lived. And then we also have Courtney Asseo. She's owner and partner at Petites Canailles in Paso, Robles. And I would say about that place, if you've never had the leeks vinaigrette, you haven't lived. Kristin Casillas is owner and partner at Orale Taqueria in Paso, Robles, and just so fun getting to know her. She was one of the main organizers on this, so we applaud Kristin's commitment to women in our community. Jessica Russo is owner and partner at Farmhouse in San Luis Obispo. Pizza Napolitana, just delicious. So thank you, Jessica, for being here. And then Kari Torres, who I went to high school with and who I adore. We sang in choir together. She is owner and partner at the wonderful Farmhouse Corner Market in San Luis Obispo. If you haven't been out there, get the rice flour waffles. Your life will be much better for it. So I'm thanking all of them for being here. And in case you don't already know this, these ladies are the heavy hitters, some of the heavy hitters in our community. They're the big guns, and they are some of the hardest working people in the industry, though you may not know that because they're not always in the spotlight. So I wanted to talk about some of the common threads among all of these women. Each of their restaurants is so vastly different from the next. There is Italian, there is Mexican, there is French, there is American, there is Southern American, it's just, they're all very different. But I also want to say that there are many common threads between them. So I'm going to list off some of those. So you women, each of you work with your husband or partner at the restaurant. Each of you is a mother. Each of you does most, if not all, of the administration, the HR, marketing, and operations for your business. Each of your restaurants has passed the 1-year mark, which is a miracle in today's economy. 90% of new restaurants don't pass the 1-year mark, by the way. Each of you lives in one of the most expensive places to do business in the world. Each of you has had to weather COVID as a restaurant owner. And each of you offers a phenomenal product to the public. Any one of those alone could crack a strong person, let alone 2, 3, or all of them. Can we take a moment to celebrate how incredible that is? Just incredible, truly. I wanted to ask each of you, and I'll call on each of you, I wanted to ask what motivates you and what is most challenging for you right in this moment. So Jessica, I'm going to start with you. And sorry, Jess, don't forget to unmute.
Got it. Okay. So sorry, the first part, hold on, Carmine. I'm so sorry, my son is home right now. Okay. So what motivates, sorry, Jaime, can you just repeat the question really quick? What motivates me?
Of course. Yeah, what motivates you and what's challenging you right now?
Well, I'd say biggest motivation is this one right behind me. I think like any parent feels, you always want your kid to see you working hard, trying to instill that work ethic in your family. That would definitely be like my number one motivation, would always be my son and providing a good life and whatnot. But motivation inside the restaurant, we have so much pride in what we do. I love that. I love that place. So motivation to always try to make it better. to improve, to, strive to do new things. That would be the motivation I feel for my business. So one motivation would be for my family, and then the other one would feel the love that I have for that restaurant, how much time and sacrifice we've put into it. That's the motivation that keeps us going, even through kind of this very rough last year. And then what was the second part of this question?
What is the harder answer is what is challenging you right now?
Challenging right now. Things are so slow moving right now. Getting things done at this time has just been so tough because everything is just so slow moving. That's how I don't know how to better describe it. Like just trying to get like new furniture in or anything. It's just everything is slow moving. And of course, like right now I have my son at home. So that's another thing, balancing the restaurant, having my kid at home. So that would be another thing that's a little challenging. But yeah, I would just think everything's like a little extra to get things done right now. That's what I'm facing right at this moment.
Yeah. Courtney, I was going to ask you next, what motivates you? And then what's challenging you right now?
Ooh, okay, what motivates me? We're new. We just passed our 1 year, and we opened November of 2019, and then COVID hit 3 months later. So I think that's our motivation, is that we never really got to fully experience our first year of this exciting dream that we've had. It was just one thing after another for us, and then getting pregnant in January. It was it was another motivation just to keep going, to do it for our children, to show them that, hey, look, 2020 was a crazy year for everybody, for the world, and we're still going, and we have so much more to bring to the table and to do that, we're just getting started. So that would be my motivation. Our families, Julian and I both come from entrepreneur families, business owners, so that we see the hardships that our parents have faced for 20 plus years. And, and everyone tells us, if you can make it through COVID, you can make it through anything. And we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So that would be my motivation. My struggle is that I'm a full-time mom, and I'm always with them. So I work throughout the day. I come home, and these children, they need me. So they need my attention. And that's a struggle for me, because people think, oh, well, she's not at the restaurant anymore. She's at home with the kids, and it's not like that at all. I've got the kids, I'm making dinner, I'm responding to emails for reservations, I'm trying to book large parties, I'm looking at our online reservation system all night long on busy weekends, trying to see, oh, why is this table waiting so long? I wish I could turn it off. I could, but this is my business too, and I want to make sure that if I'm not physically there, that things are running the front of the house wise the best that they could. And we have a really good staff right now that takes a little bit of weight off my shoulders, but that's my struggle. It's not being there enough.
That sounds like the scariest reality show ever, watching it from home in real time.
I know, it's crazy. And then, just with the kids and the baby, we've got 3 under 3. So it's like, it's a little intense.
My hat is off to you.
Thanks.
Maggie, tell us what your smiling face. Tell us what your motivation is, and then what your challenge is right now.
Sure. So like everyone here, both me and my husband run this business, and this is the only thing we do. So if this fails, that's it for our family. So my biggest motivation is that we are the providers for our family, and all of it rests on this restaurant making it and being successful. So that is our driving factor. That's always what I think of. And we do say, like, you know, if this thing goes under, like, we're both going to work for Lowe's. Like, we've got a plan B. We won't stop. But like, I'm a restaurant guy. Like, I want to, you know, that's my driving force. So, and then the biggest challenge, I mean, definitely over the past year, we have had to recreate ourselves so many times. Every time I think all the changing regulations, you know, and not being able to work for the future, not being able to predict what comes next is my biggest challenge, because I need to plan, I need to know what comes next, I need to feel like I'm ahead of the game. And in the last year specifically, and right now even, I don't know what to plan for. And that's tough. And it's just like, I've had to figure out a different way of working.
Yeah. Let me ask Kristin, what is your motivation and what are you challenged by right now?
Yeah, start with the easy one, the motivation. That one's the light and fun one. For us, you know, in particular, this last year, I think what motivates us are the people. So our customers, our staff, and the community. We see, you know, Orale as this opportunity to create just a space that's welcoming, that's positive, that is, you know, there for anyone that needs it. I mean, yes, we're all about tacos and burritos, but what's most motivating to me is when, you know, we get a Yelp review about, you know, a staff member being, you know, excellent service, or it was 2 of our staff members had birthdays last week, and like, I don't know, like 10 to 15 like Army guys came in and sang her happy birthday. And like, those special moments are just so motivating and rewarding. And I think it's needed more than ever right now, just to kind of create that positivity. And I would say both, you know, in the physical space of Orale, but also online. Like, so crazy the world we live in, but just Facebook is a hot mess. So any like positive like vibes we can put out there, it's like an opportunity that we see, you know, as impact we can make. The challenge, okay, I'll be honest, everyone listening, we got kind of the list of questions ahead of time, and I was like, dang it, Jaime, just jumping straight into the challenges off at the start. But for me, it's just doing it all. And there's so much on our to-do lists. And I don't think that's unique to being a restaurant owner. I think that is part of being a woman. You have your to-do list. Lists. I probably have like 5 on the table spread out. And then it never ends. It's just always in your mind, all the things you have to do. And then in particular, I think the more challenging thing, like, give me a list and I'll knock it out. But if I look back to before I had kids and before we opened the restaurant, my to-do list was like so fun because I got to do it and do it really well. And I don't know if I can cuss on this, but I mentioned this earlier to our group, that before I had kids, like, I had my shit together and I was proud of it. And it was like this really prideful thing. And now I do not have my shit together. And so it's just part of being, and I'm like, okay, vulnerability hangover. Like, this is our table. There's my breakfast. There's an iPad with a crack that came from Orale. Once it broke, it became the kids. Anyways, don't have it together. But the challenge is like being okay with okay. Like, I'm going to do as much as I can. And it might not be to the level of excellence that I know I could do if I were given more time and space and everything else. But I have to be okay with that and just, you know, pause and give myself grace, but also be proud of
what we have accomplished. I mean, ladies, like Jaime said, we made it through a year, our first year, some of us longer, through a pandemic. We're still here. From what I, have learned over the last few weeks, I mean, these ladies, we all have, amazing relationships with our husbands and our family. And so just stopping and saying it's enough. Okay, I'm going to stop before I start crying, but.
Crying is okay. Crying is okay. Kari Torres, what motivates you and what, oh, I just love seeing your face, Kari. What motivates you and what is challenging right now? Don't forget to unmute. That new modern problem of unmuting.
I know. So for me, motivation is there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I think we all see it and we're all like, okay, just like this mouse in a wheel running as fast as we possibly can. But I think we all see a pin light. And so just keep moving towards the light is where the motivation comes from for me. Family, yes, it's all there. And yes, we really want Farmhouse to succeed. Along with Courtney, we weren't 3 months, but we were like 10 months and then we shut down. So that was just like, it was devastating. But at the same time, I think we finally see a light at the end of the tunnel. Current challenge along with Kristin is just I'm not doing currently the things that I'm really good at. Currently I'm basically a homeschool mom and I have 3 kids at home that need a lot of attention. They just started going back to school. Granted, it's only 3 hours a day and the junior higher goes in the morning and the little kids go in the afternoon. Why? I don't know, but so like again, there's a light there, so I'm going to move forward, but I'm not killing it like I was at Farmhouse, but I know where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be in this home. I'm supposed to be with these kids and I'm supposed to just put one foot in front of the other and give myself as much grace as I possibly can. And like, yes, my new having my shit together is way different than what it used to be, but it's still me. And everybody in this chat has to be okay with the new way of how life is.
And Kari, and it's enough. Like it's still you and it is enough. I mean, I'm going to have to like write that down to myself a million times, but
just keep saying it because it's gonna be what gets a lot of us through it. And it'll be something that you carry with you forever. And also like my teenage daughter who you just saw walk by, you're enough. You are enough exactly how you are right now. And if you feel like you're not enough, then let's look at the things that we need to look at together and I'll help to support you to prove to you that you are enough. And so all of that stuff.
One of the things that I've repeated to myself for the past 10 years is I do enough, I have enough, and I am enough. And that really helps at the end of the day, really helps. And by the way, Kari, I have my daughter is in the morning cohort. My son is in the afternoon cohort. Like, how is anyone supposed to be able to do this? But I work from home. I don't run a restaurant. So,
well, and basically now you're like, so now I'm really not going to get a break until August.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And with them
onto there.
And with them in school too, now we have to take them to school and pick them up and we have to be on time and so that they're not scared and waiting for it. It's just a lot. It's a lot, I do want to allow us all to talk to each other too. We don't have to just answer the question and be robotic, but please feel free to chime in wherever you want to do that. I was going to ask, let's talk about something positive. Why are you in restaurants? Did you always want to own one? Is that something you always pictured yourself doing? I'm going to go backwards actually, Kari, if you wouldn't mind sharing on that.
Yeah, I never thought I would own a restaurant, never in a million years. And then I met Will Torres. And seeing his progression on the Central Coast to become an amazing chef, it just like, it wasn't even like we had to talk about it all the time. Like when we have our restaurant, it was more like, like, yeah, someday we're going to have a restaurant and it's going to happen, but it never was a dream for me. And my kids and all my family always tease me because I am not a cooker. I do not cook. We don't spend lots of times in the kitchen. I mean, when it's crunch time, Will and I'll spend lots of times in the kitchen, but it like it consumed me, and it became my dream too because of because of the just gift that Will has to be able to change ingredients into amazing bites of food. So no, I did not want to own I didn't know I wanted to own a restaurant, but now it's the only thing I ever see us doing.
Yeah. Kristin, did you ever picture yourself owning a restaurant?
Yes and no. I think from, when I was younger, I wanted to open up like a deli or a coffee shop, and then I married a Mexican, so tacos sounded great. But I didn't really, that wasn't a dream from years and years, but I think I've always had kind of that entrepreneur spirit, or that like excitement of just, doing projects or getting something done. And so, yeah.
Maggie, I know your answer, but did you ever see yourself wanting to own a restaurant?
Yeah, and everybody that knows me is not surprised by this. This is the only thing I've ever wanted to do. This was my big lifelong dream. I don't know why, but I think I'm hardwired for hospitality. I just like feeding people and making them feel comfortable. I love to cook at home, although I'm not a chef, and I'm happy to not be the chef of the hatch, but I love everything about, bringing people into my home and feeding them and having cocktails with them. And so yeah, this is pretty much it. When I was little, I remember after Thanksgiving one time, I took all of our leftovers at home and tried to sell them to my parents' co-workers, and I'm pretty sure my stepdad gave me $5 and threw them in the trash. But this is just like my dream, so I'm super happy to be where I'm
at. Who am I with? Sorry, I'm with Courtney, I believe, right? Yeah, Courtney. Did you always want to own a restaurant, or is this kind of a surprise?
It's before I even met Julian, I think I remember having a conversation with my sister or someone saying, okay, so that would be a dream someday to have a restaurant. But I didn't go towards hospitality. I was more into entertaining and like acting. That was kind of where I wanted to go. But when I did theater and was auditioning, what do most actors do on the side? It's hospitality. And, I did it for so long. So I just calculated 20 years now I've been in the industry. And I didn't choose it, but it chose me. And then I met Julian and we moved to Vegas together. And that's like the mega hub for restaurants, or it was. And I loved it and I couldn't get out of it. I didn't really want to get out of it. I was good at it and I loved hosting people. And then it was just a matter of everybody's asking, when are you guys going to open your restaurant in Paso? We're like, one of these days, but it just kept getting, the more settled down we got and had Margot, our first child, it was time to start thinking of the bigger picture. And here we are living our dream.
Yeah. And Gessica, did you always picture yourself having a restaurant?
I promised myself I was not going to go into this industry because I grew up in it. So from the time I was little, my mom and dad had a restaurant. So I promised, I said, nope, not going to go into this. A lot of my family has restaurants around. So I was like, nope. I'm going to go into something different. I went to San Diego State And I graduated in film production, and that's what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to go into film and be a producer. And then I met my husband, and we decided that it would just be a great idea to go into this industry together. And turns out, you know, we're a great team, and so it works. And he's wonderful at what he does. But yeah, no, I did not want to go into this at all. And it's funny how similar it is to film production. It's like you're putting on a show every night. And so it actually is very similar to what I studied, but just, I think because I grew up in it, I just didn't want to do it. And now look, there you go.
Gessica, I can't wait to talk to you more about that, because I always thought of restaurant kids as like the kids that knew all the bad words and were doing drugs by, you know, age 8. And I really want to make sure that my kids are not restaurant kids, even though they're going to be growing up in restaurants. So I would love to know more about your experience, you know, over, you know, coffee later, more about your experience growing up in this crazy industry, because it's just so all encompassing.
You know, I think it's such a, just to say, you know, but I see Carmine and I already see he loves it. So I'm always like, oh my God, what's, you know, my son is going to go into this. But I, you know, it teaches them social skills. There's just so much good that comes out of raising your kids in the restaurant industry. So don't be too scared, because it might happen.
You just messed up my daughter that's behind me. She was like, "Ooh." She said that word.
Uh-oh. It's a great industry. So even, you know, yeah, we all love it apparently.
It sounds sort of like an abusive relationship in a way. You keep coming back. Sorry, that's not a funny joke. That's not a funny joke. But you know, it's a love-hate. It sounds like it's hard, but you love it and you thrive on the challenge and the difficulty.
It's adrenaline, you know, it's got that kind of addicting thing, you know, as much as we hate it sometimes. I think a lot of people always come back because it is that exhilaration, you know, the night that you're busy, you know, problems are happening, but you're still making it through with your team. I mean, it's a great, you know, it's a great business. It really is. Okay, I'm going to stop now. Other people.
No. I think they all agree with you. I'm going to jump ahead in our questions because I really do want to know this. Who has been a role model for you? And then also on the other side, what are you doing to model, mentor, and pave the way for women and minorities in your business? And to give Gessica a break, we'll go back to Kari.
Okay, role model. I mean, I've looked at like, I mean, because I don't cook and because I'm not a chef, but I still find it so fascinating to see these female chefs that are just killing it out there. And like Dominique Crenn, which we've eaten at her place before, and Single Thread in Hiddlesburg, where it's a husband-wife team and the wife runs the whole garden area. I mean, we haven't been there yet, but want to go so bad. So I would just say like a role model for me is to just like keep looking at those just strong women in the kitchen. There was one woman also in New Orleans, I can't remember her name, but we went to her restaurant. She's an African-American woman just killing it in New Orleans. Her restaurant's beautiful. Anyway, so I would just say like female chefs, just do it for me as far as a role model. And how am I modeling? I don't know. I just, I guess just doing things like this and just, you know, trying to be as transparent and, you know, not superficial, go deep with people, and yeah, and then just do my best right now specifically to be a role model for my children. I think that's where I'm at.
Yeah, if you didn't say that, I was going to say it's obvious you have kids that are pretty great kids too. Kristin, that same question for you. Who's a role model for you? And it doesn't have to be in business. I mean, it could just be in general. And then also, how do you see yourself being a role model?
Yeah, I'll say, a role model, or just, somebody in my life who's impacted kind of where my life has taken me, I would say, is my grandma. I'm actually wearing, she passed away last year, but I'm wearing a necklace, and I always wear it when there's a day, either a tough day that I know I got a lot to do, or a day that I know I'm going to be in a vulnerable situation and I just need that extra, like, you got this. But she was amazing, but she always would just kind of make comments about how lucky I am to live in today's world, where as a woman, I can do whatever I want. And she said it not out of a place like, oh, poor me, I grew up, I didn't have those opportunities, but just don't take that for granted. And if there's something you want, go for it. And there's just this kind of sense of value that I think she instilled for me at a young age. This is like funny. I wasn't really planning on sharing this, but I remember when I introduced her to my first boyfriend when I was 14, and I asked her what she thought. And do you know what she told me, ladies? She says, honey, there's plenty of fish in the sea, which was her way of saying she didn't really like him, but more importantly, like, don't settle. Like, and I was 14, I wasn't going to marry the kid, like, but just that lesson of like really just believing in yourself, having that confidence. And so I would say my grandma, my Gigi. And then, same as Kari, like, how am I a role model or mentoring? It's like, my first thought is like, oh my God, we don't have any scholarship programs. I'm not meeting weekly with any women, or, I'm not doing any of that. And that goes back to that, like, our expectations are so high. And how I'm being a role model, like Kari said, it's stepping into uncomfortable, vulnerable situations, being authentic, trying to be as real as I can about motherhood, about, relationships, all of it. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, good answers. Maggie, what about you? Role model to you to them. And by the way, nobody's saying this, but you're all role models to your staff. You're training your staff. Like, it's happening, right? Okay, just want to get that out of the way if nobody was going to say it.
So I thought about this a lot, because I, having been, really into restaurants for a really long time, I have a lot of, women restaurant owners that I just think are amazing, companies that I follow, careers that I've followed in the hospitality world. And so I was trying to think of like the one person that I really look up to. Here we go. Why did I have to be the first one to cry? Jesus. Because I haven't told her. But it's my mom who's watching. And she was not in the restaurant business, but she had a super big career. And she prioritized my sister and I above all else. So, she came up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, the highlight of her career, where it was really, really tough for women. And I've heard some of her stories and I'm like, holy cow, I thought restaurants were bad. You really dealt with some shit, and thrived. And so I've always looked up to that. And, what prioritizing us looked like for her, she was home by 5:30 every day, despite the fact that she was probably passed over for promotions and things like that. She made a commitment to only be out one night a week. And she, sat on different, various boards beyond her own job. And she sang in the church choir and had choir practice and things like that. And I even though that doesn't, that's not exactly the same for me, just due to our business, I know that if I teach my kids that they are my number one priority, that no matter what else, even though I'm not like the best at everything, I'm going to raise human beings that value themselves and, that still want to hang out with me later. So, because I love my mom. So anyway, definitely not part of the industry, but like so important to me. And then when I started, so after I graduated from a hospitality program in college, I went to work for a big restaurant business, restaurant company, a corporate restaurant company in Boston. And I worked with this, they put me into management at 22 years old, and I was probably the worst. And, had all this experience, being in restaurants, working through high school and college, and then studying hospitality, and, thinking, of course, at that age, like, everything. And I worked with this other manager, this younger woman. I mean, she was probably late 20s at that time. And she hated me, hated everything about me, and called me the twit behind my back, as I later found out. I called her heinous behind her back, but I think back to that, and I ended up thriving in that job. I loved it. I ended up finding my niche and really like killing like a part of it when I figured out what I was really good at there. But in terms of like me being a role model for other people, that experience really showed me that if if we hire somebody that's a young woman coming up in the industry that's showing promise, but is also kind of twitty and like young and, just being, exploring adulthood for the first time, I can share my experience and, not the negative things, like the positive things too, but in sharing my experience and in bringing them up and like, hey, you could do this and have fun and, be an adult for the first time. And also thrive in this business. And this is how I did it. And here are the steps and all of that. I think that's where I can excel because I've seen the good, bad, and the ugly.
That's awesome. That's a great answer.
Maggie, we come train our staff too. Will you do that?
What's that?
You come train all of our staff too.
Yeah.
Train them all.
I love that. Thanks, Kari.
I was thinking maybe I could live with you. I think that'd be pretty great.
I'll show my Kristin moment. You see
yes.
Pile behind you, don't want to live here.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Oh, Courtney, let me ask you, who has been a role model to you and who do you think you're being a role model to perhaps?
So I have a lot of role models. One, Maggie, you have always been a role model to me. And I just remember bringing you in this restaurant before it was construction, and I was like, what do I do? Like, what do I do? Tell me, like, I don't understand because I know how to run a restaurant, but I've never built a restaurant, and I've never done the backside of the restaurant. I've never been in charge of QuickBooks. I'm a QuickBook wizard now, but I just remember picking your brain so much, and you were always so nice, and I'll never forget when you took me out to lunch, and I was like, how am I going to do this? How are we going to open? I just don't know if I can do it. And you're like, you will. You're like, I don't even remember our opening night. And I was like, how do you not remember? And you're like, I don't know. It was,
I still don't.
Happened. And you know what? For me too, I vaguely remember my opening night, but I just always admired you being a mother and working so hard at your business. And when you show pictures of your kids sleeping in the cot at the hatch, that's what I'm doing now, because you know what, we are going to have restaurant kids and they have no choice right now, and I hope I give them a good life. But I will be forever, forever, forever grateful for all of the help that you've given me and your wisdom. And I just appreciate you a lot.
Thank you. Keep it coming.
Okay. Am I still on?
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, okay. And how do I model, mentor, and pave the way for women and minorities in our business? Well, you know what? This at her table really, it just like struck me when I woke up on Monday, and I was like, we have almost 50% women to men ratio at our restaurant, and there's some phenomenal women that work for us, and I think that it's time that we highlight them. And so every day this week, I'm showcasing different women and telling a little bit about them, because they're not just our employees. They're mothers. Some of them have other jobs. The girls in the kitchen are phenomenal, badass women that don't ever get the credit, like, especially when dining was outside, no one ever saw them on the line, but they deserve the credit because they work so hard. And they've worked for all of these women have worked for us since day one. They've never left. There's other things that they could have done and said, the restaurant industry, it's not for me, it's not maybe their career, but they stuck through with us and they believe in us. And I mean, there are days that I come in and I'm just like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this week. And they always have my back, whether it's holding the baby for 20 minutes so that I can take a couple phone calls, or, one of them, Julie, she took the baby out to the park the other day. She took Margot to the park and just let her play for an hour. And that's something I couldn't give her because she'd been at the restaurant all day and I had to get things done. Or even if it's just, like words of wisdom from another woman, I'm their boss, but they're constantly telling me how good of a job I'm doing. And I don't want to cry, but like, I don't feel like I'm doing a good job half the time. It's like, oh, I forgot to do this, or shoot, I didn't clean the bathrooms before I left. Are they going to get done? I just do everything. And I have these women that they'll text me and say, Courtney, I got your back. I did this today. Or, hey, I did this. I watered your plants in the restaurant. It's just these little things. Um, I just want to be a good role model to them, but they're also good role models to me. And so I don't know if that's really the answer that you're looking for, but I love these women that we have.
Yes. Jessica, for you, same question. Who's a role model to you, and maybe who do you think you might be role modeling to?
So role model to me would definitely be my mom. She was really thrown into this exact industry when she was like 21 years old, and she had me and my sister pretty young. And she was just such an amazing mom while carrying a business. I mean, she definitely had so much of the struggles that we're talking about right now, not feeling like you're doing enough for your business, but yet I never felt her absence throughout my childhood. She never missed anything, whether it was a dance performance, anything for school. I mean, she was always there, and she had so much on her shoulders. And I mean, this 80s, 90s. So the restaurant business, I think, was in a lot of ways like a little bit more demanding. And so, she was just such an amazing mom. I mean, she never missed one thing. And I had an amazing childhood while having a total, family business. So, and she lost a lot in her life, like very young. And she just always reminds me to be faith-filled and take time for yourself, and you're doing a wonderful job and keep going. And she's just such a bright soul. My mom is just such an amazing woman. And any time I'm going through struggles with the business or kids or all the struggles that we've talked about here, she's just always there behind me telling me, you're doing a great job, you're doing the best you can. And so for me, she's such a big role model. My mom is like a force in my life. And then mentor, I mean, you know, I feel so similar with Courtney in that way. Like, I love the women that work for me. They are such strong women. I definitely hire kind of stronger personalities. And I mean, the women in our restaurant, I consider them like almost like they would be my daughters. And they're just such wonderful girls. And I always try to tell them, you know, when they're doing things. I mean, I always try to give them like positive reinforcement and tell them how much I care for them. Or one of my servers, she kind of had a little breakdown pre-shift because her car broke down, and she's like, it's going to be so much money. I scrubbed her. I said, it's okay, you can figure it out. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, I consider them not just my employees, but truly women that I care for so much. And like Courtney said, so much of the time they remind me, like, you're doing a great job. You know, I do that for them, but they also very much do that for me. And I depend on them a lot. And I love putting, you know, females behind the bar and just getting like a group of strong women running this restaurant. And I love seeing a lot of women inside my restaurant. So I definitely think that maybe that's a way that I just try to be good to them and be a good employer and be more than an employer. I try to be almost like a mom figure. That's what they call me. Sometimes they go, oh, mommy, oh, don't upset mommy, you know? So I try to do that because I truly care for the people who work inside our restaurant. But yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, hope that answered the question.
Yes, all of you. That's
Okay.
wonderful. And shout out to all the moms who have been role models. You know, it looks like we have about 12 minutes. And I think that what I might just make a little executive decision here and say, we'll go just a tiny bit over if everybody can do that, just because there are 2 questions left that I really want to hear from you. So, and you don't have to answer this unless you want to, but there's one of you mentioned that there's a thing called being the owner's wife. And not everybody on this panel has the same relationship to that question. And so I wanted to hear, have you ever been called the owner's wife? Shortcut. I know that you all have at some point. But how have you handled that? Does it bother you? Does it not bother you? Give me your feedback. And I think I may just open this up to anybody who wants to answer.
I can start if nobody else is. Okay. A lot of people, since they don't see me now, they always think, you know, I don't do anything or I'm just the wife. But or when I was here at night, I was always the hostess. Or people like, oh, well, you can't get me a table. I know the owners. I'm like, Courtney Asseo, nice to meet you. You know, but I'll never forget ever. Our opening weekend, there was an older gentleman who came in and I couldn't get him a table. He didn't have a reservation and we were so booked our first weekend. And on his way out, we made it work. I made it happen. So on his way out, he said, oh, just so you know, either your business or your marriage is going to fail. You decide. And I was like, what did you just say? And his wife like elbowed him, like, get out of here. Don't say that to her. But, you know, I just feel like my husband is so good at what he does. And he's kind of a celebrity. You know, his family are very well known here in Paso, that everyone thinks it's all him, you know. And like Gessica said, how her husband calls her the boss. Julian says that too. He's like, oh, this is the big boss over here, you know. And some people don't think that, you know. It's really hard. I try not to let it bother me, but it does. I would be lying if I said that I didn't. So, yeah.
Something happened to me when we were in our early days of the Hatch, and I will never forget it. And it kind of typifies the reaction I get from people when they either find out I'm the owner after assuming that I'm the host, or, you know, whatever it might be. This local winery owner came in and he had a party of 5. And he said, I was at the front door and I said, oh, I don't have a table right now, but I can get you all at the bar. And he didn't even look me in the face. He looked over my head to see if I was telling the truth or not. And he's looking around, he was like, well, my winemaker knows your owner. I was like, okay, I'm the owner, who's your winemaker? And turned out to be a buddy of mine. And now all of us are pals, but, you know, I think that's, and, you know, not to say he's a bad person, but like these biases that you have in your brain, like when you walk into a joint, I think, especially, and I think you're right, Courtney, and I share the same issue. If I'm not there as much at night, then I'm not, you know, people don't see me as the owner. They're like, oh, well, she's home with the kids. You know, that's her job now. And still, like good regulars of ours come in. They're like, oh, I never see you anymore. Like you're just taking care of the babies. And I'm like, you know, not that that's a role I'm ashamed of. I'm happy to be home with my kids, but you know, I work so hard, and I'm so proud of my restaurant that it is absolutely like the most disheartening thing when I am seen as, you know, just the owner's wife, or, you know, not as intrinsic to the success of the business as he is. But I will say also that my husband, who's right here in the room with me, is my #1 supporter, and will say to anybody who says, you know, oh, you're the owner, he'll say, my wife and I are the owners of the restaurant. Thank you.
All right, ladies, I talked about this in our video. This is just the thing that probably makes me most angry is when I hear that, and I've heard it so much. I actually just heard it a couple weeks ago after, you know, planning this event with the customer outside on our patio. They rented out our patio, and he introduced me as he's like, oh yeah, this is Alberto, the owner. This is his wife. After I had just done all this work with him on in this event, and I was like, are you kidding me? This is how you're going to? And he saw it, he goes, oh no, I mean, she's the owner as well. And I was like, oh my God, this is just ridiculous now. But yes, I've had this so many times. I've had almost every experience, Maggie's experience, Courtney's experience, I've had it. Especially, you know, my husband, if you haven't met him, he's so charismatic. People just love him, especially when he's working outside of the kitchen. And so automatically people just think, okay, this is the owner, this is the guy calling the shots. And finally I would get so kind of, you know, frustrated, just as you ladies, like you're doing so much work, not just at the restaurant, but at home as well. And, you know, to not even be acknowledged as a part of, you know, the team. Oh man, it would just make me so upset, to the point my husband was like, just start calling him out. Just start saying, nope, I'm the owner. I'm the boss. He works for me. So I started to do that. It's a funny thing. And my husband did as well. He's like, no, she's the boss. She makes all the decisions. And, you know, just as like a way to kind of counter this. But yeah, I mean, it's bad. I've had it probably way too much. And, you know, yeah. So this is a big issue for me. #1 big issue right there.
You know, I'm actually kind of glad to hear that, because I have doubted myself so much in those scenarios, because it happened so frequently. It has happened so frequently over the last 5 years that we've been open, that, you know, I started thinking, well, you know, maybe I just don't present myself the right way. Maybe I just don't have, you know, the confidence. I don't project the things that my husband projects. You know, maybe I'm just not, you know, expressing myself the right, whatever it is. And I was very interested when we jumped in on this thing, to hear everybody's responses, to see if this was something across the board. I didn't know if this was maybe a North County thing versus South County. Obviously there's, you know, different ideologies. I think we could say in those two places. So I'm very, yeah, this sucks.
Yeah.
with
Maggie,
everyone.
yeah, it's not you. It's not you at all. It's not any of us. It's literally just, I think it's such a, like I said, a male dominated industry. And if you're not in the kitchen and, you know, you're, I don't know, not a man, they just think like, well, you're the owner's wife. And I'm like, I do way too much for this business to be the owner's wife. Are you kidding me? I wish I was just walking in, you know, la-di-da-di-da, okay, bye. You know, when I'm stressing out at home about the restaurant, all the things the restaurant needs while I got my, you know, my kid and all of, you know, I think we can all just relate to that. It's like, kidding me? I carry way too much of this business on my shoulders to be the owner's wife, but I don't know. I don't know why it is, but.
I 100% agree with you, ladies, and I want to validate that you are not just the owner's wife or whatever. But the one thing that I have to say about how I feel is that when Will worked out at a winery in Paso for many, many years, and I would come into the restaurant and people would say that's the chef's wife, I felt fine only because I kind of dominated some respect. And I also think that there are a lot of people out in this world that like this man makes this amazing food or this man owns this big restaurant, and then they get to know a teeny piece more about that person because then they get to see this beautiful woman by his side. And so I understand where you all are coming from, and I 1000% agree. But I feel kind of like I'm the mysterious one in the background, but I demand respect. And it does let people get to know just a teeny bit piece more, and they feel more connected, especially when there's a husband-wife team or children running or whatever. It's just, it's like we're letting them in a teeny bit more into the life of who we are. But I don't want to be the owner's wife. I don't necessarily want to be the chef's wife, but I feel honored to be that a little bit too, just because I like them. I like to let people in a little bit more. This came about really, I think, when Will and I were doing like personal in-home dinner parties. People were just so excited to have a husband-wife team come and cook. And I think that really showed like, yeah, Will cooks, but it's not going to get on the table and you're not going to have as much fun as I'm there. So plus I poured the wine. That was really good.
Which is like the most important, right?
Yeah.
Well said.
But I am all behind you guys and the way you feel and validating that. And yeah, it's not fair. But that's how I feel about it.
Totally get that.
Kristin, I didn't know if you wanted a chance to say anything. You don't have to.
Yeah, I'll always say something when I have the opportunity. I don't know if I've ever heard that specifically, but I am not as publicly in the restaurant, so I'm sure it's been said. There's part of what Kari's saying that resonates with me, and I think part of that comes from this mutual respect, and there my husband is, so let me talk about how awesome he is. No, the mutual respect that we have in that partnership, where when I meet people, it's usually outside of the restaurant where we'll run into a customer and they know him from the restaurant and he'll introduce me as his wife, of course. And there's this like honor or pride that like, yes, like I'm his wife and we're doing this together. It's not the same as somebody come up to me and saying you're the owner's wife. So there's like, it's like a different scenario, but I get what you're saying too, Kari. And I think for anyone listening and thinking about going into business with your husband, for us, I would say before we even opened the restaurant, when we were like, basically like, are we going to sign this lease or not? I remember like talking and we said, okay, number one, no divorce. Like if it gets to that point, we sell the restaurant. Like that is number one, is our relationship. And I think that's what's made our marriage successful and our business, because of that decision we made at the beginning. And It's just built more respect for each other in what we bring to the table, because the man knows how to work. The man does not know how to use hashtags at all. So that's what I'll say. I'll leave that there. But yeah.
I love that. You all
Wait, I
have,
just saw Sarah McGrath is laughing, and she totally gets it because I know she's a husband wife. I just met her earlier this week, and she does a social media and her husband cooks. So I love it, Sarah.
hey, a hashtag is a complicated thing to wrap your mind around if you haven't been gradually eased into it.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to honor your time. I also just want to share real quick as far as vulnerability goes. My son is about to go to school, and he just boiled water for cup of noodles. So yeah, food writer, no. Fix yourself your cup of noodles. Hi.
Hi.
I thought my kids would be little foodies, but they just, I mean, it is chicken fingers all the way.
Try. Margot won't even eat at the restaurant. She goes, Daddy, I want mac and cheese and chicken nuggets. It's like, okay.
No shame. There is no shame. Well, so I am honoring your time. I just want to ask you, maybe in like 10 words or less, how do you take care of yourself? And I'm actually going to kick it off. How I don't have the responsibilities you all have, but I have other kinds of responsibilities. And I would say that the way that I can release stress and take care of myself, one of the best ways is exercise. But beyond that, I love to dance. I love to do it in my room with all the windows closed and with my headphones in. There's something magical that happens when we move to music. And for me, that's a huge take care of myself in like 5 minutes or less kind of thing to do. So I was gonna maybe start with Gessica and go back. Jess, how do you take care of yourself? Maybe 10.
So I love to exercise. That would be my taking care of myself for mental stress, everything. Exercise is a big thing for me. And watching movies. It's another one.
Same. Movie would be number 2 for me. Courtney, what about you?
I love Peloton, so that's my release. I move my body, whether it's 30 minutes a day. I have to have that moment. And I've started saying no. Like, I say no to things now, whereas when I moved here, I felt like I had to say yes and do everything. And mentally, I just was exhausted. And sometimes, I mean, I'm super social, but I've just learned to say no sometimes.
Yeah. Maggie, what about you?
I commit to working out 3 times a week. That's it. I get 3 hours that I just really enjoy because that makes me feel good. And I invest in things that are going to make my life easier, both at home and the restaurant, be it technology or, having people there to help me with various things that are just going to take things off my plate.
Yeah. Kristin, how about you?
Yeah, I would say the same. The gym, I have a 5:30 a.m. class that I go to in the mornings. I'm a morning person. That's pretty much it. I'm working on trying to take care of myself more, but it's like I get that short window before the kids wake up, or I get up early enough to leave before they wake up, and like that's it. So whatever I can fit in that time.
Kari, last one.
Courtney, Peloton girl, get it? It's right back there. The Peloton's actually in my dining room. So I work out every day, and then I just want to say that my tribe, I have some people up in here in this little Zoom chat, and my tribe is here, and my tribe helps me a lot to take care of myself. Like whether they ask me if I need something, or even just helping them with something sometimes helps me out. You know, just cracking open the beer and handing it to me without any questions. I mean, I think just making sure you have a good support system is a way to take care of yourself. So, and we also do pay for like my social media and communications person. He's on here right now and he does all that for me, because no, that's not me. And then like our general manager, who is like number one on my team and I couldn't do anything without, she's here too. I just got people. You got to have people.
Well, thank you. I know some of you had to get childcare for today just to be able to talk into a screen without any distractions. And thank you for the time you spent and the time you spent preparing. I think that pays off for the people listening. So I'm going to thank Maggie and Jessica, Kari, Kristin, and Courtney. Really appreciate all of you. Really appreciate your restaurants. But also just, I think more than anything, your honesty and vulnerability here. So I would encourage the folks who are watching, please eat at these restaurants. You now can come in, about 25% of your body can come in now. but get a reservation, come in and eat. And then I think the thing we forget that we can do is tell your friends about the dish that you had that you cannot go the rest of your life without eating. Tell them and encourage them to come and visit these restaurants, buy their merchandise, buy their gift cards. And also I would say, when you dine there, say hi to these women. Sometimes I think we feel like we can't say hello because we don't want to, I don't know. Sometimes we feel like we can't say hello. And one time I ate at Les Petites Canailles and I didn't say hi to Courtney. She was sitting a couple tables over, and afterward I texted her and said, I saw you last night. She's like, why didn't you say hello? And so just say hi, tell these people what a good job they're doing. It might be the only positive thing they hear all day. But I really appreciate it. And thank you to At Her Table for inviting me to be part of this conversation.
Thank you, Jamie. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, so much.
It was just so fun. Thank you.
Let's go get a drink.
Yeah.
Like,
See you guys soon.
Okay. Bye.
bye, ladies.
Dewey.